time feels like it has almost stopped. Even the children here speak an ancient, almost forgotten language.
The village of Ma'alula in central Syria is a unique place. It's well known in the world as the only place on earth where people speak Aramaic, the language of Jesus Christ. It has troubled neighbors. Another village, Yabrud, a center of smuggling here in Syria, is just 20 minutes away. Homs 100 kilometers away. But this place is one of few in the country that has not seen any trouble or violence since the uprising began.
Home to an Orthodox shrine, a 4th century Catholic church and dozens of mosques, this town's religious heritage is solid. Its residents, the legacy's keepers, have a specific explanation of this luck.
God saves us. This tragedy didn't come to us because God loves this city.
But it seems that God is not the only one to watch carefully over this Christian-dominated community in a mostly Muslim area.
In Homs, we feel sad because the people don't respect the government.
We are afraid that these people will come here to try to disturb us and destroy our peaceful life, as they did in Homs and many cities. But we trust the army and security and state.
For decades, the government of President Bashar al-Assad, who is himself from the Shia Islam minority Alawi sect, has protected the interests of 10% of the country's population who are Christians by enforcing its strictly secular program and by curbing the influence of radicalism.
We used to live in peace, Muslims and Christians. Of course we're afraid people from outside the city and the country may come and destroy this unity. Assad became more than just the head of state. He is a kind of international symbol of this fight for our life.
When the time came, the people returned good for good. Mother Pelagia of the St. Thecla monastery says the people here didn't join the uprising not because they were scared of the regime, but because they were scared to lose this regime.
There were people here. They wanted to push us against the government, the president, the army. If you hear the army enter the city and kill people, believe me, this is a mistake. The army is here to protect people. God bless Assad. He did a lot to protect this state and make it strong.
Fears mount, though, that these efforts will not be enough. With increasing calls for foreign intervention and the army of the opposition, a no-win fight would be tragic.
Our country before the crisis was developing. Now we are all losing. Jesus said, any kingdom that splits will die fast. These people are receiving money and listening to the orders. They want to ruin this country.
Mother Pelagia's words are echoed by the town's imam.
I remember last April there were several men after Friday prayers. They tried to persuade people to protest against the government, encouraging them to go and make trouble. We had a meeting with residents and the people then agreed to support the leadership.
The imam says they'd never seen most of those people before and never saw them again after that Friday.
We are not talking about normal people, but people with an extremist way of thinking.
In the town's church, the children continue to pray in Aramaic, Arabic, Greek, French. But it's clear the prayers of the people of this unique town are understood in any language. Marifin Oshinati, Ma'alula, Syria.
Hello and welcome. The United States has pledged a further $123 million in non-lethal aid to Syria's opposition. The announcement was made after a meeting in Istanbul of the 11-nation core group of the Friends of Syria. All support the Syrian opposition.
It's a nation in the midst of civil war. And what to do about the ongoing violence in Syria is a question that world leaders have been asking themselves since this conflict began more than 2 years ago. The Syrian opposition and its international supporters met in Turkey to decide what to do next. From the United States came a promise, $123 million in non-lethal aid for the Syrian rebels, a doubling of its contribution.
The situation in Syria is simply horrific. It is horrible. And cities and neighborhoods are under fire constantly from heavy artillery. Ballistic missiles are used against people, innocent people. And Assad is using his air force to rain down terror, dropping various kinds of bombs, some very questionable.
Outside the Friends of Syria talks, though, a demonstration by around 40 protesters from a Turkish youth group opposed to foreign intervention in Syria. The pledge offered by the Americans here went beyond the current provision of food and medical supplies. It's thought it could include armoured vehicles. But the US stopped short of giving the Syrian opposition the military assistance that they had come in search of, for fear of arms ending up with Al-Qaeda-inspired rebel groups. Syria's main opposition, though, vowed that any equipment it receives would not fall into the wrong hands.
It is in the clearest language they've ever used, their commitment to a free and democratic Syria, to condemn extremism themselves, to be clear about their responsibilities.
Britain and France have argued for weapons to be supplied to the rebels who've been struggling to break out of suburbs like this one in the capital Damascus. The Syrian opposition, though, has yet to get the kind of support from the international community that it strives for. Susanna Mendonça, BBC News.